Get into the show.
To start us off today, our first prompt is I agree with traditional gender roles.
So for me, yes, I am someone that does believe in traditional gender roles. However, I don't feel like everything has to be set in stone. But however, do I believe that a man should be the provider? Absolutely. That's something that I know that works for me. And I believe we all have choice power. So having children eventually one day, I want to be able to have the option of maybe not working and that being okay.
Thank you.
We're two genders. But I think in the past, that demarcation line between people fulfilling roles, I think that's gotten blurred. And it's been to our advantage as women.
Shout out to Maggie, the substitute teacher. I love her content. If y'all don't know who Maggie, the substitute teacher is, do me a favor. And once you get off of the stream, do me a favor and go over there and please subscribe. When I tell you she has some really, really good content on femininity coaching, femininity classes. She talks to men about what it is to be masculine and what women look for in a masculine man, because she's married and she has one. Shout out to Maggie, the substitute teacher. And also shout out to the content creator as well. Fair use, by the way, fair use. All right.
Because by having that very strong delineation between this is what a man does and this is what a woman does, we have surrendered a lot of power.
That's Maggie with the yellow.
So I think it's important that we take that power back.
I love her,
that
man.
Means that we have to function in the world taking on somewhat of a man's role, then we do it. And we have done it. And I think by doing that, we have empowered ourselves. And because of that, we are better role models for our daughters and for young women.
So I'm going to just speak on that real quick. And I have to stop and play this because I don't want to get a copyright strike, right? So there's going to be a lot of commentary in the middle of this. So, all right. What the young sister was mentioning, right? What the young, can't cut it out. What the young sister was mentioning was that she wants to have options. She wants to be able to work or not. She wants the feeling of being protected by a masculine man and having choice for her family on what she wants to do with her life, which is completely fine if you ask me. That's what a woman is supposed to feel. Now, the older woman, where she's coming from is, if you ask me, it has a lot to do with her race, right? Because Black women, and I don't mean to sound like a feminist in this, right? Or a feminist, I should say. But Black women wasn't really afforded the right to experience what she just said. Black women had to fight they had to fight right next to us in order to get certain rights. Because just alongside them not being free for a lot, we wasn't either. So they had to fight with us. This woman, and I'm not knocking her at all, the older woman, she's coming from a place of her privilege. So when she's saying it like what feminism did was great for society, for women, that is only true to a woman that knows how to practice feminism, but still be a wife to her husband. But that has to be seen. That has to be learned, because it's not in your nature to go out there and work on the oil rig. It's not in your nature to build society. It's always been in men's nature to do that, right? To go and work with heavy machinery, to see all this marvelous buildings you see in these major cities, to see all these roads being built. So she's speaking from a place of privilege. But let's continue.
What do you mean when you say power?
Power is, in other words, we're not subservient. We, have our own earning power. We have our place in the world. We're making a contribution. We're not just being the nurturing person that sits at home raising children. We're doing much more than that.
Options and equality. That's power. I was interested to hear you talk about going back to traditional roles. I don't know which tradition you want to go back to, but I come from the women's
Fair
movement
use, fair
from
use.
the 70s. And of course, that's almost the second iteration. The women's movement started in 1848. And we're talking about a period of time where women's lives were totally, you couldn't inherit the money. You meant that if you didn't get married, you were an old maid, and there weren't any other options. So when you go back to tradition, I don't know how far back you're going, but I do know that if we keep the roles the way that they had been in the past, there's been a lot of abuse for women.
Mhm.
The women from the 1970s, they looked very militant. And I understand that young women of today find those kinds of feminists off-putting because they feel that they have somehow buried what they feel is their gentler nature. There's a kind of rebellion about it now. And I respect that and I understand where it's coming from. But we, as the old feminist, the old women's movement, set the stage so that you now have the choices. And when you say you want to go back to traditional roles, I don't think you mean to go back to the time when women had no choices.
So let me stop it there. There's always a balance, right? So I definitely get what she was saying, right? Women, you know, I'm a big advocate on women's rights as far as them being able to vote, fair and equal pay, all of that good stuff, right? But there's a balance. There's a balance. I want women to be able to go out there and say, this is what I want to do. But you have to understand now, when you fight to get to the ladder, what they're not teaching you is your actions come with consequences. So if you spend a lot of time chasing a career to be as an equal playing field like what men do, and you don't sleep, you're not prioritizing anything but building your career, then guess what? The likelihood is you would have a very difficult time finding the man that you want. Right? And that's just real. That's just real. That's just 1,000% real. So that's what the older generation is not telling you. They're not saying, yo, I don't want to, work. What women today are saying is, I want the right to choose. So when you hear a lot of women falling back from, oh, I want to work and I want to be strong and independent, a lot of women are pushing back on that now. And the reason why they're pushing back on that is because they realize this shit is hard out here. If you buy a house today at $350,000 and you wait 30 years to pay it off with an interest rate on an FHA loan, you're paying $90,000 for your house by the time it's paid off. You're paying 3 times. So if women buying houses now, they're struggling to take care of them. Women are becoming the top evicted group of people. So yeah, now they're starting to push back on that strong and independent narrative for a reason. Because what these women, the older women, are not saying is that there has to be a balance. They never taught that. Where you can work, but you can still go home. And the thing is, they did. They was all into this movement and went right home to their husbands and made them a meal while they was out there marching for the right to do whatever. Let's continue with the video.
So Aisha, what do you mean by going back to traditional gender roles?
Certainly, I am not a fan of having 0 options, 0 choices. Do I think that women should not vote and we should go back? No, I do not support that in any capacity. I support women having, equal rights to pay. I'm for gender equality in terms of women, making as much money as men do. Everyone's household is different. Not everyone even has a man to even rely on. And so, yeah, I think that it's fair to say, yeah, you should be making whatever money you're qualified to be making. So when I speak about traditional gender roles, I'm talking about the knowing of who's playing what role specifically. There's always a masculine and feminine energy.
The
And I
wage
would
gap.
prefer for my man to have that masculine energy. For me, as where it stands, it solely means a man being a provider and being okay with that. I also am in an interesting space myself because I'm very feminine, but I also do work. And so what does that look like? How do I strike the balance? I know that for
So-
me, I don't want someone to tell me necessarily, no, you cannot work at all under no circumstances, but I want options.
Do you think that there are some women who might
Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. Let me get back to that. My bad, y'all. I'm tripping. I was about to say something, but then I thought twice because I don't know that young lady. So I want to give her the right to the fairness to say, you know, believe how you believe it. I do know a lot of soft-spoken women that believe that's the softer you speak, the more feminine you are, but it's not true. There's a sense of sarcasm that comes sometimes with that softness. But I don't know that young lady, so I'm gonna let that one go.
in their eyes was protection from things that they did not want to be involved with, and that perhaps by opening that door has forced them to do things that they now have to do.
I think by not wanting to be standing up for yourself, you're basically taking on a child's role. And what you're saying is you take care of me, you provide, you do what I need to do, when everyone's fully capable of taking care of themselves. And by not doing that, you relinquish, again, back to the word power. Power is not only income. Power is standing up for yourself, doing what you feel is right, making your own choices. We're fully capable as women to do the same types of jobs, to do a lot of the things that men do. It's
Words matter. And I like that she said that at the end. She didn't say do all things that men do. She said a lot of the things that men do. You remember that old statement, anything you can do, I can do better. I could do anything better than you. Right? Y'all remember that, right? That was that old song. I don't know who the hell sings it. I don't know who came up with it, but it was definitely in the middle of a feminist era, right? So, you know, I think women started also pushing away with that too, because they start to realize, like, yo, I can't do everything that a man can do. Just like men can't do everything a woman can do. Most men do not have a nurturing bone in their body to raise a child the right way. Meaning, give the child a nurturing factor. I like what Blockchain said the other day. Blockchain said, he said, if I didn't have my daughter's mothers in their lives, he said they'll turn out to be as masculine as him. He said it another way, but I'm not going to say it the way he said it. I know Blockchain don't care about monetization, but he made a good point with that. Because if I had a daughter too, my daughter would be tough as rocks. I wouldn't know what to do to teach her to be soft. It's that balance that a woman brings to her family, right? So a mother and father. So I love that she used the word. She didn't say we could do everything a man can do. But a lot of the things that we could do, yes, work-wise, yes, women can.
just a question of reprogramming our minds and knowing that we have the ability to do something.
My view of feminism is a little different. It includes men. I want equality. I don't want equality for the women here. I want equality for us.
When you say us, you're talking about men and women?
Everyone.
Everyone.
Everyone, of course. I have grandsons. I have granddaughters. I want their life to be one where they know they're going into that job and they may or may not get it because of their qualifications. If we had time for a conversation, I would have a long conversation with you about, as my friend mentioned, if you really wanted to live in those time periods. Oh my goodness. It would be destructive. My sense of what you said. The man in your life doesn't have the options that you want. He gets to be the provider. He gets to be the male and have the male energy, and that's his job. You, on the other hand, get to be feminine and have all the choices to work or to not work or to be or to not be. I hope that he gets to be masculine and he gets to be in charge and he gets to be a forceful human being in whatever his view or her view is of masculinity, and that she gets to wear the high heels and be as feminine as she wishes
And it doesn't mean that either one of them don't know how to use a hammer.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that either one of them doesn't change the diaper because they want to. That's who they are as people. And that's the merging I want to see for my kid.
So that brings me to my next point.
I don't know
Women
how to
should
feel about.
prioritize
I don't know how to
family
feel about
over
what she
career.
said, but let's continue.
I think that women have done that in the past and they found themselves lost for their own, they had no self-identity. As a consequence, they, went through a lot of depression and felt very unfulfilled. And I think this thing about, men and women gender roles, it's like we're all human beings and we all have gifts and we all have talents. And it's up to us to figure out what and how we want to contribute them to the world. And so by doing that, we find our place in the world.
So
And
do you think
She has a good point, right? When you think about what she said. But like I said, she is coming from a place of privilege. She definitely is. But there are roles definitely between men and women. Because the average woman, even if they work, they don't want to do what we do. And it's okay. It's completely fine. There's a nature behind it, right? There's the hunter and the gatherer, as I said. So there's a reason why men were hunters and women were the gatherers. There was a reason. We went out there and risked our lives. Today, men still do it, not to the capacity that we did back in the day, right? We're not out there chasing a tiger trying to, get it away from us or keep it away from our family or trying to, take down a bear. But there's a lot of men out here that are losing their lives. I work in the cable industry. God rest a young fella who lost his life booming up in his truck a few months ago and got hit by an electrical wire. Fried him completely. It fried him and his truck completely. He didn't know that was going to happen, and he's doing that job to do what? To take care of his family. So he left behind children and a wife. Men are still losing their lives all the time doing these jobs to maintain what's already built. We don't even got to build most of the infrastructure anymore. Most of it just needs to be maintained. And men are still losing their lives maintaining it. That's huge. That's huge. So like we said, like I'll tell you straight, I fell off a ladder working doing cable when I was a technician back in the day. I fell and hit my head on a gas meter. That might be why I'm a little crazy now. I don't know. But these are dangerous jobs that we go out there and do just to provide for our families. It's serious. So a lot of women don't want to do that. This is why those industries, you'll see a woman working in it, but it might be 3. And out of 200-300 men, you got 3 women. 3. Yeah, you have the right to apply for it. Why don't you want to do it? So yeah, we don't want to do the same things. That's what it is.
women are more prone to being better nurturers to children?
I think men can also nurture children as well. There are plenty of single fathers. In fact, when you mentioned earlier about, a man with a hammer or a woman with a hammer, I think, we all have the ability to do multi things.
So you don't think that some of that is more nature versus nurture in terms of a woman's ability?
If it's inherent,
Correct.
I
Yeah,
think that
exactly.
it is part of women's nature. However, men can learn it too. And that's what feminism has taught men.
I know you talked about women.
See, and that's the
and their
problem.
need for fulfillment.
So the host, I believe that's Dr. Daff, right? She has a great point. It's different when somebody has to learn how to do something or if something is inherently in them. There's a reason why you see little boys, right? The moment we think we're men, we don't even got to be full-blown men. The moment we think we're men and we have a single mother raising us, we tend to want to protect that woman. There's a natural instinct in us. We don't even know why. it's just like you're 10 years old. You're not even 10. You're 5. And you see your mom by herself. You see somebody, you walking with your mom, you holding her hand, walking the street, and you see some dude turning around looking at your mom. You turn back and look at him. Like, nigga, what you looking at? What you looking at? You want to fight? You want to fight because we can do this. There's a reason why little boys is like that. We inherently have this thing in us that's protected. And no one had to teach us how to be that. No one taught us how to do that. We're talking about boys who didn't even have a father to show them what it's like to be masculine, but something is in us. It's the same thing where something is baked in women that's nurturing. Putting a child on your bosom. I sound mad old saying that. But, the nurturing aspect of a woman, it's natural. No one got to teach you how to do that. You just do that. So that's what the doctor is saying. But as opposed to the older feminist lady, she's not saying it. She's talking like we can just learn it and that's it. Like, no.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that being a mother is fulfilling?
I
for a
think being
woman?
an attorney is fulfilling. Being a doctor is fulfilling. Being, a mother could be fulfilling for somebody. Being whatever,
Mhm.
whatever you label yourself as
Mhm.
is fulfilling.
How do the children benefit or
I think
Exactly.
by being a role
Yo,
model and going
Yo,
out.
Skinny Boy said it right there. Ain't nobody sending their children to a man-led nursery. It's not happening. If I knew there was a bunch of men that was running a daycare, my child is not going there. I'm sorry. Call it what you want. I am not gonna put my child in no nursery that has 3 men working in there talking about, yo, just drop your kid off at the front door. I got him from here. Don't worry about it, son. Your kid's in good hands. No. Where the women at? Where the women at? I need women to watch my children. That's it. But let's keep going.
Out into the world and then coming home, and when your children then come home and spending your evenings together, I think then they see that they can do something, and you're showing your daughters in particular that they have the ability to also have a career and have a family.
when the woman is going out to work
Mhm.
and getting the fulfillment she needs, who is taking care of her children?
Well,
If her husband also wants to go to
Check
work.
this out. Check this out.
People based on their own individual life and their lifestyles, they find alternatives, a nanny, or whether they stay with a grandparent, or whether they're in school and they've got someone to pick them up, take them to.
So, boom. Listen, she is, like I said earlier on, talking from a place of privilege and privilege only. How many sisters you know out there got nannies that could just watch their children for them? You know how many women I know quit their jobs because they had no one to watch their kids because they had to go to work? You know how many sisters I know did have to do that? I know women that got fired. They got released from their jobs because they're like, I don't have childcare. Well, obviously, a job is like, that's not my problem. I need somebody to be here when I sign them up to work. So if you work 9 to 5, you need to get up at 5 o'clock and go home. Well, man, my child is having issues in school, right? You think about this. This is what happens when you destroy the family structure. My child is having troubles in school. Now I have to, my child, and also my child has behavioral issues. So then now I got to keep going to my child's school and dealing with the principal, dealing with a fight, dealing with him or her acting unruly in class. Every minute I got to take off. Who is doing that? So when you break up the household, you take away the man, you got the women, they struggle because it's not as simple as, oh, I just have my grandmother watch them. Most of these women mothers is still in the street. They ain't doing what the daughter's doing. Or if they're not in the street, they at least working a job because they having a hard time living. They're 65, still pushing shopping carts at Walmart because they're trying to still pay a bill. So they don't got time to be sitting there watching no grandkids. They're not doing it. So these women are left with their children alone. So when a woman speaks like this, she's purely talking from a place of privilege where you can cough up enough money to pay all of your bills and a nanny and a cook, right? Because remember, not all nannies cook. That's an extra charge. Not all nannies put your children to bed. That's an extra charge. There's a lot when you deal with having children. And I wish the older feminist women will tell the younger ones, the younger women, listen, we messed y'all up. We lied to y'all. We played this very tricky game by telling y'all don't really need men. And what we did to the family structure was destroyed it. But let's continue with the video.
Their activities, but what's important there is that they find a way. Families, usually find their own individual ways of handling those types of things. But I think what's most important is that a woman claim her right to also be out in the workforce and that she's doing something that gives her a sense of fulfillment.
Not every woman necessarily wants a child.
Right.
And I know in my own circle of 4 women who are young and are making the decision that is not for them. And it's happening more and more. But I really think that somewhere children's rights should be considered. So it takes
Where your edibles at, kid?
and there should be a commitment about bringing that child, and it should come from both of them. And there is probably a biological part where, since a woman carries the child, she's probably more attached to the child when they're born. But after 2 or 3 years, sometimes it's the father that's and I know situations like that. They've stepped into the parenting role and the mother has moved back. So that's because it's fluid today. I mean, in my generation, that would probably have been unheard of. But since we're giving people these choices, I think that it's very difficult to generalize like that. And every individual, including men, have a right.
Yeah, you're right. That's Maggie.
Men, the provider.
That's Maggie. That's Maggie. And wait till she speaks. You know Maggie. You know how Maggie give it up, Highway. Maggie is the best. But let's go.
Wider role is to put a yoke on them. It's a lot of responsibility. Yeah. And I know men who've held down jobs that they're miserable in because they're supporting a mortgage and a wife and,
Yo, Kenny, you something else,
and
man.
That also is as unfair as keeping a woman home without having any kind of expression about who she is.
So one, just feminine, masculine energy, to me, is much different than rights. I'm blessed to grow up in a situation where I now have those rights because of the efforts that women before me made, right? So now when it comes to the prioritization
of great as well.
Career, that is the key. We have choice. We have choices. I think what a lot of women have to go deeper into is both are going to have pros and cons. And it comes with self-awareness of who you are, what's ultimately going to fulfill you. You can have it all, but not all at once. So if you're going to pursue a career, then it may not come with the relationship with your kids. So I think ultimately women just have to understand, what am I okay with and what's going to fulfill me, because we have the beauty of so many choices.
In this world and what we see today, do you believe that women should prioritize their family over their careers?
I can't say should, because that's their journey to walk. I don't think that it's...
I totally agree with that. What she just said, I totally agree with that. I don't say a woman should prioritize her family over her career. What I say is it's up to her. But also, with that being said, is when you turn 35, 40, 45, 50, don't complain. Don't say, where are the men? Don't say, I never had a fair chance at being in a relationship. The grass is always greener on the other side. So you could do whatever you want to do. You are right. She's 1,000% right. If you choose to prioritize your family, your career, the outcomes and the fruits will bear from that. That's just how it works. But if you choose that, understand that there's something that's not going to happen later on the likelihood is almost very slim to none. This is why you have a lot of women getting older and complaining. But then the women that do prioritize their families, I would say the same thing to you. Now, when you get older, don't feel as if you lost some identity. Don't feel like as if you lost yourself. Don't feel as if you should have went to work. Because like I said, the grass is always greener on the other side. So everyone's looking at each other thinking that I wish I have what you have. I'm over here looking at you, you over here looking at me. But in reality, if we just learned how to be satisfied with the life that we chose and then took accountability for it, I think we'll be a lot happier. But let's move on to the next question.
Feminism and femininity are contradictory. Does anyone like to speak to that?
I think this is a different time. I think that when we started out looking at the difference in roles, we didn't see them so much as contradictory. But I think that what has happened, 50 years hence, is that the feminist movement has somehow, the women's movement became kind of villainized because they looked as if they were denying their femininity. But I think that was part of the process of taking back their power.
Right.
So now you have these, I call them new age women, who are very concerned about their ability to express what they feel are feminist traits. And so today, listening to all of you, I don't think they're so contradictory, because I think you want the
I want to hear Maggie.
and you also
I want to hear
want the
Maggie.
powers that go with a woman who fully expresses herself and has rights.
Well, one thing that I have noticed in terms of what you're sharing is that women who identify as being feminine maybe don't want to do some of the things, maybe saying, okay, a man and a woman can do the same job. And a feminine woman would say, absolutely not. I'm not interested in doing that, nor can I do it, nor am I built to do that. And oftentimes we'll see women who identify as feminist saying, I don't enjoy taking care of my appearance and taking care of my husband, and I don't.
Yo, Skinny boy, Skinny. Remember we was watching that show the other day on when I was doing my live stream, and it was Anton Daniels and a woman named Randy. Remember how we was like, yo, she's so annoying, she's so loud, this is crazy. But look at the difference between that host and this host. She is so soft, feminine. She's not over talking anyone. This is how you run a show. This is how Dr. Daft show, you are doing a great job. I recommend everyone go over there and subscribe. 10 out of 10. And this is the only episode I watched from her. But I love how she put the show together, one. And also, I also love how she is, portraying herself as a soft, feminine woman. She's getting her point across. She's asking the right questions. This is how you host a show. If y'all notice especially on Sundays, I barely talk. I let the panel talk, right? It's a panel that consists of men and women that's very, they speak their minds, I should say. So I let them talk. I don't be the host like, nah, this is my show. Everybody wait, shut up, listen to me. This is, thank you for giving off a good show here. I'm going to continue with it. I gave her accolades enough, I know.
Agree with these things. I do think that there is a pretty big division when women are talking about things that are important to them in terms of what is truly more important or more valuable, depending on the woman.
I agree.
Well, in terms of you talked about taking care of yourself. Coming from where I came, we saw the beauty game as being something that was imposed on us. I come from the generation where women were still wearing corsets. Often I look at very high heels and I see them as torture instruments. So that is, for me, not a way to express your femininity. And I think that, the amount of money that people spend on cosmetics becomes an industry which, how can I put this, which suppresses women and the fact
You're
that
right. She don't
it
read the comments
requires
at
women to
all.
spend a
don't
lot of
care.
time on themselves. And I'm not sure that that's a good use of your time or that is a good way to grow and understand yourself.
Mm.
So from that perspective, I guess there would be a difference. Yeah.
So she made a very good point right there. I'm not gonna lie, that old lady made a very good point, and she was pretty much saying that, you know, the best way to express yourself shouldn't be through makeup and all of that. That outwardly looks for attention, right? The best way to represent yourself is your personality and how you are. And she made a very good point. So she got 1 point out of 60.
First of all, let's just take now, which I did not believe in or belong to because actually a family. I would not support that.
What is a now meeting?
Now,
National
oh my gosh, I
Organization of
love that.
Women.
National Organization of
Of
Women.
Women.
Oh. Okay, you're talking about. I thought you were talking about like something in
Now,
a school.
yeah.
Okay.
And I will say, I was one of the women that burned their bra. I have a bra on today just to be nice.
You burned your bra?
Thank God.
Yeah, part of the feminist movement in New York.
Back
We
in
went to the
60s.
Statue of Liberty and we burned our bras.
Why?
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Takes my breath away that that's not obvious. Could you answer the why to that?
I believe you all burned your bras because you felt it
There go Maggie.
restrictive, just like cosmetics, and imposed on you, and attractive to men, which is something repulsive, which I think is beautiful. But I think that's the reason why you did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that was kind of the sort of a statement. It's
Okay.
like, what would be wrong if I was sitting here and my boobs were down here?
Wouldn't you be uncomfortable?
No one wants to see it.
I mean, that's just where they go. That's real. It was a symbol.
I see.
I did have a couple of questions.
You
for
see,
Judith.
it's so
Did you say
funny,
that
right?
There was no child.
Because those are the same women that make fun of the women in Africa for not wearing bras, but yet and letting their boobs hang. Because you heard it your whole life, but then now here goes a movement that you guys are talking about. Y'all didn't start. Y'all technically are mimicking a different culture, and you're saying that it's natural. It's just the way it's supposed to be. Keep that same energy when it comes to other cultures. Let's continue.
Care at the National Organization of Women's meeting.
Yeah, is that outrageous?
Yes. Is there a reason why?
I believe it's because it was an extremely classist organization,
Okay.
and which is humorous to me because most of those women were very feminine. And they
Exactly.
had the time and the ability to not have
Privilege.
to worry about childcare. They weren't concerned.
Y'all hear what she said? She said exactly what I said earlier about the other old lady, about privilege, right? The same feminist women that were out there telling our women how to be feminists, right? And how to follow that movement. Those are the same exact women that had husbands at home, were very feminine. Very feminine. But then they sat there and told y'all that you don't need a man in your household, that you can be better by yourself. So she knows her bra burned itself. She knows the truth. She knows exactly what the feminist movement did to women, especially our women.
Concerned with the lower class, they were concerned with the upper class.
Wonderful. I have one more question, if I may. I understand the choice to wear what you want to wear and appear how you want to appear. My question would be, do you think that men do things to attract women that make them uncomfortable?
Yes, I definitely do.
All the time.
So I
all
think
the
that we're
time.
all affected by this. Everyone is.
So one thing I wanted to share is that there are some women who identify as being feminine women who actually feel more fulfilled and more confident and happier with themselves when they are doing things like putting on makeup, wearing a bra, or getting a breast lift because they want to, because it makes them look beautiful, or going to the spa because they want to relax. They don't want to work 12 hours. Some of these things women enjoy doing for themselves.
This is not controlled by necessarily men or women. The issue is someone telling us and us believing
Okay,
that brown's the color of the year.
I see. Okay.
That short skirts versus long skirts.
I taught school for years, and kids would tell me as I saw styles change, oh, I wear what I want to wear. And I would always say to them, funny. I don't see anybody in class wearing a toga. I mean, because they weren't living 2,000 years ago when togas were fashionable, even though we live in the context of a
My
society.
God.
And
What
while
up,
we make
man?
some decisions, our decisions are made by what we have around us. And some of those decisions are manipulated, which is what Judy is trying to talk about.
Right.
Madison Avenue.
Exactly.
Hey, this is
Yeah.
big money.
Mhm.
You're talking about the fashion industry, you're talking about makeup industry, you're talking about plastic surgeons. I mean, they have, we're talking billions of dollars.
So we watching this show, man, about feminism versus feminist women. New show, fairly new. Her channel got like 4,000 subscribers, so she's growing. I'm recommending everybody go over there and subscribe, mainly because she's an awesome host. But they're having a good conversation about with a panel. Obviously, as you see different ages and races, and what that feminist movement did to communities.
Understand where people coming from themselves, if they have this decision to make, I can see why they make it. But I think that they really need to understand that they're living in a context, and it's in that context that you make your life.
Well, and I think that femininity isn't, the definition isn't makeup or cosmetics, because I agree, there's always an agenda, and consumption is a whole nother topic.
Right.
But femininity is feeling good about yourself. Femininity is feeling beautiful. That's with or without makeup. I do think it is considering how you want to present yourself to the world. It's up
Now,
to
listen.
women to decide what is going.
Obviously, I'm no damn woman, right? But what I'm saying is this: that's not femininity. Femininity is not about how you feel about yourself. Femininity is actually a way that you were born. The way that you were born, you were taught to be the opposite. Just like men that are not masculine are usually taught to be the opposite. If you remember what I said earlier about that natural instinct in a man to protect their mothers from when they're 5 years old. When you outside with your mom, most little boys can contest to this. You would lose your life if somebody came up to your mom and tried to violate her at 5 years old. At 5. So there's no different than what a woman has her natural instincts to be. So it's way more than how you feel about yourself. What she's describing right now is the soft girl era crap. She's describing about a moment of what you want to change on your inside, and however you feel dictates your femininity, as if it's a light switch. So what happens when you're mad? Do you not feel feminine anymore? What happens when aggression starts to come back? Is the femininity gone? No, it should always be there. It should be there. Just like my masculinity should always be there, no matter what mood I'm in. So it's not about how you feel, it's who you are. I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm just a black dude on YouTube.